Yeah, it's the other app settings, video and voice. Input is your mic, output is where I always hear, I can hear you. Yeah, but you're coming through Discord. Huh? No. Yo, what is up, guys? DPS podcast 160. Is it 169? Is it really 169? Dang it. I wanted to be once. I wanted to say, well, wanted to be 169. Yeah, it's 160. It's 169.
For a sec, we couldn't hear
Actually,
you.
I know it's 167. Shout out to everybody. Episode 167, and we're here. It's going to be a great one. We got our special guests with us today. We also have a lot of stuff to just basically talk about. So the beginning of this show is basically just going to talk about, something that's not Xbox, just to get it out the way, because it's the only other thing, and it really does speak to something that's going on inside of just gaming in general when it comes to shooters and stuff. But the majority of this show is going to be mostly about exclusivity in games, not only on the Xbox, on the PlayStation 2. So let's get started. I want to introduce first the man, the myth, the legend, the man of many slaps, the man that hasn't made a video in a while. Slow Mo, what's going on with you, bro?
I made a video last week.
What kind of video was that?
It was about the first Descendant. I see you don't watch.
I take it back.
You don't watch call me your friend. You don't watch my content. It's kind of painful, man.
No, you know what?
It's a little painful.
No, I clicked on it and I hit the like button.
And then you didn't watch it. That's even worse.
No. I didn't know you're right. I didn't, because I was at work when I listened to it. I just let it. I never will leave somebody's video because I feel like it's like it's like very not cool to like click on a video, just hit the like button and leave. So I had an ear pod in, but I was at work and I was talking to somebody. So I actually did listen to your video. I need to go back and listen to it more.
Oh, okay.
I need to listen to it, like actually listen to it. But you got watch time off me, like the full watch time.
Like I'm gonna ask someone who knows you better than I do.
Oh.
Let's ask our special guest, your brother. Hey, do you believe your what your brother just said? Is he kind of fibbing here? He kind of bending the truth. What do you think?
Well, first off, I'm only a guest to the people in the chat and watching this. I've been here for years, putting console gamers in fear. So to answer the question, I'm gonna back my brother no matter what. So I'm gonna act like I'm gonna act like I didn't quite hear the question. I didn't understand what he said. Well, whatever he said, I'm backing him. It's true.
Okay, so I got two fortes here, and so we all know he was not telling the truth. That's all I needed to hear. Thank you. I appreciate the effort though. That was Arcade said they sound alike too. I know. It's I gotta kind of look at the Discord chat, see which name is lighting up whenever they start talking.
Oh man, it's not like that.
But I do want to thank you guys for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, man.
Appreciate you being here, man. So, Slow-Mo,
yo,
it's been a day. It's been a week.
It is.
It's been a week. The question, and the one thing that we are definitively going to answer in this podcast was this last week worth it? Was the wait worth it, Slow-Mo? That's what we're going to really answer in this podcast. Did Xbox truly answer all of your desires when it comes to exactly what's going to happen in the future?
I mean, you want to knock out the first topic before we get into all that?
Yeah. We're going to do that first. We're going to get to that because that's what everybody's here for. But let's waste no time. Let's get into it. Immortals of Avion developer says AAA single player shooters in 2024 is an awful idea. This is after EA basically spent $125 million on the production of this game. And Slow-Mo, it didn't do as good. Good looking game, but a lot of people didn't play it. So
I would say good looking game, but not as good as okay, here's the thing, right? It looks good, and they got like mocap actor, like real actors that look just like them, and that's all great and all, but like you played it.
And deleted it instantly.
Okay. I liked the game.
You beat it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did beat it. It wasn't like great or anything, but it didn't deserve to go double wood the way it did, right? What I will say though is like it didn't look as good as Epic made Unreal Engine 5 out to be. Like they was just like game's gonna look like real life we got real rocks up here on this rock wall. Look at the way it looks, in the demo, and then we get Immortals of Avium. Do you see the water? The little water, travel path. That thing looked like something from Xbox 360. I was like, huh? It had some imbalances. Like at times it looked like, okay, that looks good, and then other times it's like, But I don't think that's the problem. The problem, because it's a decent game, and I think it could find the audience. Most people I know that played it was like, yeah, it wasn't that bad. It was all right. The problem is that EA didn't believe in it,
right?
Because they didn't market it. It was pretty obvious very early on. Like I got a free copy from EA because they asked me to be a play tester, and I play tested like the first 3 hours of it and gave them my feedback, which was kind of pointless because it's like I play tested it less than a month before it came out. So whatever feedback I'm giving you was pointless. Like, oh, the whole story sucks. Like, what are you going to do? Change the story 3 weeks before it comes out? No, it's over. It's a wrap. And I gave them my feedback, and they were just like, all right, here's a free game. I was like, all right, bet. And I played through it, but for the price that it was, because I think it was a full price game. It was a
$70 game.
That was not worth like that. It's like it's another case of like a publisher kind of like not getting it right, not doing their part, and kind of ruining things, which sucks because that developer is like his downsized dramatically. Like I can't remember the exact percentage they lost, but they lost a lot of people after that. And yeah, I don't know if they ever drop another game again, but I mean, I don't think that the game is so bad that basically nobody should be able to see a game from this developer again. Like, give them the opportunity to kind of take the feedback, take the constructive criticism, make something better. And I think in years past, in generations past, we probably would have developers whose first game was kind of mid, and then they come back and then they make some really good stuff. And I just think in today's market, that's just not the case no more. You make a AAA game as your first game, it better not just be good. It better sell. It better make an impact. It better do all those things. Because if not, the economics don't care how good your game was or how great your reviews were or how many people thought it was a pretty decent game. You're done.
Well, let's be for real. This is EA we're talking about, and they did, shut down Visceral Games, which ever since 2009 really didn't make a bad game. Dead Space, Dante's Inferno, Dead Space 1, 2, and 3, Battlefield. They did the DLC for one of the Battlefield in-game DLCs. They did the Army of Two, which was, I think, the third one. Devil's Cartel was the third one. They even did Battlefield. They actually did Battlefield Hardline. So they actually made some pretty good games. I just think.
But Battlefield Hardline. Battlefield Hardline was a good game.
Man, that was a really good game. I like that.
Wasn't that the last game that Visceral ever made?
That was the last game that Visceral made, and that was it after that.
And it's like, that's not even their game. Like they had.
It's not even their franchise.
Yeah, Dead Space was their franchise. So it's like, you put them on something that's not even like their thing, and then it's like, oh, but this game didn't do great. Right. Thanks but no thanks. Peace out now. I just, it's unfortunate how this goes, but it's the way of the industry now, unfortunately. And if, like I said, if you make a AAA game, it better do good, because if it doesn't, you got problems. By the way, we have another guest here. Mr. Lucius Augustus is in the house.
Lucius.
Hello. How's it going?
Is going, sir.
Going pretty good, man.
Man, you late. Tell us a joke.
Xbox.
Oh,
Jesus.
Damn.
Good God. Okay, now that's.
Oh my gosh, that hurts. Things.
Man,
I think Erodimus in the chat just passed out from hearing that. Oh man. Well, he said, tell us a joke. He did it.
Ooh, I felt that. I felt
it.
I felt that in my soul.
So Oh man, K Live, what do you think about Immortal? Did you ever play Immortals Avium?
Yeah. So I did. I played it for about enough time to realize my PC could max it out and never played it again.
Oh, so you just wanted to benchmark it?
Yeah. I wanted to see the frame rates, but essentially, what made me mad about the game is when I saw the trailer. This is
Mm-hmm.
what they do with certain games. When they show the trailer, it's like a fully maxed out end of the game. They show like the last like 20%. You're like,
Yeah.
this looks incredible. Like they're shooting Goku level Kamehameha beams in the trailer. And then when you start playing it, you start off with a water gun. Like I want what was in the trailer, or at least some version of it. So for me, I don't.
It does take a little while to get to that
Yeah,
point where you're doing
that's what I'm
stuff like
saying. I'm
that.
like,
It's like it's a
I'm
couple
not.
of hours. It's not
Yeah,
a
that's what
long
I'm
game.
saying.
Like when I beat it, I beat it in like 8 hours, I think. 8 or 9
Right.
hours.
But
It
that's
was
cool.
pretty
But
short.
you need to give someone that initial gameplay loop. You should hit kind of hard with what's to come. I felt like I was a little kid playing Wizards, right? Versus not being Harry Potter fully maxed out type deal.
So
And is
essentially,
it
what you wanted is you wanted like one of the way that games used to do it, where they'll give you like the maxed out character, and you're just like doing crazy stuff, running around, killing everybody, and then somehow that character dies in a cutscene, and then you start as like that
Uh,
person's
I can
son.
see yes
that
and no.
that
Yes
that
and
that,
no.
that could work. Yeah.
But let me give you an example, right? When you see most game trailers, you kind of can do the majority of what you see in the trailer typically in the first hour or so. Like you look at Halo, right? You get the BR, you get the pistol, you get grenades behind, the enemies and have them flip over and watch them go ah and woo, right? You couldn't do most of what was in the trailer initially to the level of the trailer in the game for the first few hours. I'm like, I feel like I was shooting a water pistol. This is not what I wanted. But one thing I do want to touch on, you guys said like a AAA game. The budget you said was how much? Did you guys say 23 million?
125 million.
That's a
Oh,
that's a triple A game.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
a
gonna
triple A
shut up.
game.
Yeah, I thought y'all said 23 million. That's what it's like. What kind of budgets are you guys talking about for AAA games?
125 million.
But yeah, I can't speak too much on it. Like I said, I played it just long enough to benchmark it and say, okay, I can play this maxed out, and it didn't keep my attention past the first 40 minutes. So that's my thoughts on it.
Cool. Lucius,
about
did you ever play Immortals?
No, because when I looked at that, I just thought to myself, man, that just kind of looks like a worse Ghostwire Tokyo, and then I just played Ghostwire.
Okay. Also, Caleb, how did you? Because like the reason why we even discussing this is because the game failed commercially. Did you play it through a service, or did you buy it on discount, or did you get it full price at
Do you
launch?
really want the answer to that question? Because I already know how you played it.
Man, listen. This is
He got a code from you.
Listen,
No.
this is a
Oh, okay.
public displayed podcast that will eventually go to millions of people. I'm going to give the politically correct answer and say I borrowed it.
Did the person you borrowed it from know you borrowed it? Think we know the answers to that.
Yeah,
And
that's
what?
crazy.
No. How long did it take you to borrow that game?
Well, at the time, my internet speed was about a gig, so
Okay.
Oh, that's why I said we don't really want to know the answer to that version.
All right. You know.
Okay, but
So you-
okay. So before we move on to the last part of the ultimate question in this podcast, what do you think about just the part of shooters not working in 2024, especially when it comes to single player, especially being a person that's really embedded like me and you? We play a lot of shooters and stuff, mostly multiplayer, but they're
Mhm.
basically saying a shooter in 2024 that's a single player game is like an awful idea. What do you think about that?
I don't agree with that. I just think that these are people. They're bean counters who look at trends and say, "Oh, well, there haven't been recently any successful single player, first person perspective kind of games." Well, actually, I don't know how Ghostwire Tokyo did, because Lucius just mentioned that, and that was first person perspective. That was single player. I think it did decent. I mean, I don't know, like sales wise, how that went, but regardless, like I think these are just people who aren't really gamers that kind of feel that way, and and they see how where the trends are, and they know that, okay, well, if it's a first person shooter, it's gotta be multiplayer.
Hmm.
If it's not multiplayer, it's an instant fail. And I think we're probably going to see in the future where that's not the case. Where other games come out and they're of high quality and people like them, then everyone changes their tune. So it's just really more people looking at where the times are and just making a flippant opinion based upon what they see things happening recently, and it doesn't make much sense to me.
For
Yeah.
what it's worth, Ghostwire Tokyo, just on a quick search, 483,000 sales. With a
Ooh,
total, yeah, it grossed a total of 20.3 million revenue gross.
Yeah, it didn't
that's not
sell.
good.
But
Yeah, it
that's a
didn't sell
quick
a
search. I
lot.
didn't go deep. So
It didn't sell a lot. I think it sold over like 2 million at some point. But that was like after it came to PlayStation and Xbox, and it had come to Game Pass and PS Plus. So it had a lot of exposure, and even after that, it only sold a couple million. I think
Right.
it did not sell
Hmm.
a lot.
Okay. Hmm. Anything you
It's
guys
a
want to
great
say
game
about?
though.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts? You know, being a person that played the game, like, what is your thoughts on just that, on that conversation or that thought about shooters working? That's a single player game in this day and age of games in general.
I think you just need the right game, right? I think like Doom Eternal did pretty well. The
Hmm.
Wolfenstein games in the past have also done well. There's
It's a
a
good
good
one.
chance that Indiana Jones will probably do well. Um, I'm hoping that that Joanna Dark ends
Oh,
up
Perfect
being,
Dark. Yeah.
yeah, Perfect Dark ends up being um, in the same way that we saw Indiana Jones is first person, but also having some third person elements to at least please the third person kind of people. Because if you look at the history of Perfect Dark, it's always been a first person game. So I don't
Yeah,
really know if that would change. So
I'm kind
I
of
think
hoping this third person, but that's just me. But yeah, go
I
ahead.
understand that some people have an aversion towards it, or at least prefer third person when it comes to character driven kind of action whatevers. So I can understand that, but like uh I don't know. I try to
I'll
avoid.
explain my side to it. I was all fine with Perfect Dark remake being the first person perspective game because the first couple games were, until Crystal Dynamics was added to the game and its development. And considering what they've done with Tomb Raider, I just, and like, Xbox does not have that, well, they probably will never have it exclusive, but it's not the point. Um, they don't have that kind of game in their first party, their first party bag. So I wanted it to be like Joanna Dark, but kind of like Lara Croft, but in that
Alright.
universe, and that was just in my head canon of how I thought it would be. And I'd be like, oh man, that'd be awesome. And then, Crystal Dynamics could get back to doing the kind of stuff that they are good at doing and not Avengers, right? So that was my thought with it, but I'm probably in the minority, so it's
I
fine.
think we can have an interesting compromise where and some people can feel however they felt about Halo Infinite's single player, right? I had my gripes with certain parts of it, but what I really enjoyed was kind of the thing that they kind of stole from God of War, which is kind of the one camera aspect of everything. And despite the fact that it's a first person perspective game, when it was time to kind of show you Chief's reaction to everything, the camera, and they probably put a lot of work into this, the camera like just glided perfectly out of the perspective of the player, and it showed you exactly what needed to happen at that moment, and then brought you right back into the into Chief's face right when the action was about to happen. That felt really good. And if we could have something similar to that in Perfect Dark and potentially with Indiana Jones, then I think that a lot of people will still get that feeling that they do in third person games because you'll see a lot of the interaction that the person has, and then it'll put you right into it.
Gotcha.
I
Yeah.
agree with that 100%.
We got a super chat from
yeah, go ahead,
Enrique.
read
Said yes, Forte's brother is here. Let's go. You know,
he's a little
K
mad at
Live, you have a fan in Enrique.
Yeah, listen, he was kind of mad for Enrique. He was mad because you didn't let him know about the podcast yesterday, even though I told him all you had to do was join the Discord.
Well, I was waiting for you because I looked at you. I'm like, okay, you're not online. I called you, didn't see it, so I'm just like, man, because I had Super Blasphemous podcast. It was awesome. And I do want to give the preview because I can't. I just walked away from my computer. But he was correct. Looks like the total sales for Ghostwire Tokyo was about 2.8 million. That number I gave, the 400 and so thousand, that was just Steam.
Okay.
And it says, which is how is it still a thing, that Xbox and PlayStation only report physical sales and not digital. So it's hard to get a true scope of how many sales it really did from those two consoles. So, but he was on point with that, right around 2 million.
Let's
But
Lucius
it-
Adilsis. We expect nothing less.
I didn't know. Let's go.
True. Although MPD would report digital for they only don't MPD only doesn't report digital for Nintendo.
For Nintendo.
But they're only North America anyway, so I guess that's not the whole worldwide sales regardless. So I guess it's always you can't really get official numbers until the publisher of the game comes out bragging or not bragging about however it did. But like 2 or 3 million is, I mean, depending on the budget of that game, and I don't think that was like a huge endeavor. It's probably decent.
It was 123 million, and quote unquote Steam's revenue was 20 million on only 500k, right? So that means if it did another almost 3 million, just times that by 4, so what is that? 40, 60. It didn't make its money back. That's kind of rough.
But you also have to remember that PlayStation paid for
Yes.
exclusive for a year, so I
Yep.
don't know how much they paid, but that also comes into the whole profit margin of the entire thing.
And they have to pay they paid to put it into PS Plus, so that goes into it too. I mean, if you look at something like Remedy and Control never charted on any sales chart for any region of the world. They never charted on anything, and you would think that it must have been a massive failure. But Remedy only paid, I think, they made the game with only 32 million, and they put it. They had timed exclusive on Epic Game Store. That was like 10. They actually said that in one of their earnings calls. That was like $10 million right there. And it had been at various times in PS Plus and in Game Pass. They said all together, due to all of the different bags that they were getting for putting it in services and stuff, that they ended up making a profit. So it kind of like it's without all that additional data, you don't really know how it did. We can just kind of guess based upon just the limits of information that we have. But I mean, I just think about that game. Doesn't seem like when I played it, it didn't seem like a big budget title. It seemed like more like a AA kind of experience to me. So I don't know. Like it could have did well. It couldn't. It could have not made his money back. Who knows?
Luca just said him doing that math remind me of Nautical doing that.
A little better though, because his math sounded accurate and yours never does.
Where you think he got his math from?
School?
Oh.
It wasn't you.
That's it's like the strongest. Math is like the strongest subject I have, sir. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
But all right, let's just cut to the chase, man. Everybody here.
Hold on. Forte made me count my lunch money before he took it. That's how I know math. But back on the topic, I want to cut you. I think every game should have a single player campaign. Like I actually miss it though. I really do. I actually like campaigns a lot, get you used to the mechanics of the game before you dive into the multiplayer. Even though with shooters, you kind of get the mechanics, but I miss single player games a lot. Like especially shooters, the Call of Duties, grand set pieces. I think all shooters, in my opinion, should have a single player.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens. But moving on to the thing that everybody cares about the most. Let's talk about Xbox and this briefing / podcast / a raging inferno of fire in a house that they didn't want to put out for an entire week and a half, that they said that, we're going to do it today on a Thursday. So I am going to go to, because Lucius, you are our special guest. We brought you on the show because we knew you definitely wanted to talk about this. I'm going to come to you first. What was your takeaway from this show, sir?
Well, my meme takeaway was I need to build myself a PC.
Let's go.
My man, my man, that's my guy right there.
PC part picker for the win. Let's do it.
Yeah, like let me start looking at these parts right now. But I don't know. I kind of walked away in two minds because initially I kind of came in thinking there's nothing that they can say that would convince me of really anything, because I have a kind of a hard stance of if you're putting your games on other platforms, specifically other console platforms, you are devaluing your hardware and your ecosystem to some degree. And I'm primarily concerned not from a console warrior standpoint, but primarily from, hey, if I'm spending money inside of this ecosystem, I want to be able to like make sure that I keep being able to have games here. And there are specific third parties that are already skipping the platform. I don't want to be in a situation where you are incentivizing individuals and third parties to not properly make a Xbox version of something, and it creates this weird situation inside of this ecosystem. I think that they've been able to give an answer, at least to what their vision is going to be. I question the implementation, obviously. And I think they're looking at the numbers and they're allowing the numbers to be able to dictate their actions, which, Microsoft's really good at reading the tea leaves. They are never good at knowing when to jump in properly. So I don't know. I feel very weird after all of this. I know that they told me the truth. And the biggest thing that people need to realize is that these 4 games are only the beginning, right? They said it very clear. Hey, it's only these 4 games. We don't want to make it seem as if a bunch of other games are going to show up, but we're looking to see what happens, right? And if the PlayStation guys really want to like do the craziest thing possible, they should run out and support these games like crazy. Because if they support these games, then that means at some point the bean counters at Microsoft are going to be like, well, why aren't we putting Halo on those places? So I don't know. Like I'm seeing all the chips fall, and PC baby. That's all I can say.
I would say that the bean counters are going to say, why aren't we putting these bigger games over there? Either way, I could look at it 2 ways. If these 4 games don't do well commercially, sales wise on PlayStation and Switch, I can see the argument from those within Microsoft who pushed for this. Well, of course, those games didn't sell great over here. So, you chose the wrong games. We should have been putting Forza Horizon 5 over there. We should have been putting the Gears collection over there, or Halo Infinite. That game's got good multiplayer. That's a huge player base that loves Call of Duty. Why won't they love, Halo Infinite? Halo on the PlayStation for the first time. They're just going to try it out just because. And that you can see the narratives and arguments moving in that direction. But then if it does great, and they're just like, hey, look, we put Hi-Fi Rush on PlayStation, and it sold way more than it did on Xbox. We put Grounded over there, and the community's booming. why don't we have Forza over there? It would do even more. And it's just like it's always going to be.
They don't have sacred cows. Like a lot of the bean counters at Microsoft, at this point, Satya has trained all of them to not have any sacred cows. Office, none of that. Windows, none of that stuff is sacred. To them, it's all based off of services. How do they like maximize to be able to product? But what they don't understand is that this isn't like video games isn't Office. It's not Word. It's not PowerPoint. It's not Excel. It's not something that like people have to use because of productivity. It's an entertainment medium, and entertainment means emotionality. And when it comes to all of this, it's about how people feel about your ecosystem and how comfortable they are about where that future is going. And I just don't know if Microsoft can like walk that fine line. To me, the only reason why they're getting even a tiny bit of sympathy from me is recently I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and they were just like, all right, think about it this way. A lot of these companies were that are bought out by Microsoft, they are wholly owned subsidiaries. And what that means is that the company is overall kept exactly the same. So that means that like your health, vision, dental, all the benefits, the incentive structures, all of that stuff stays exactly the same. So now you're telling me these companies get bought up by Microsoft. You had it inside of your contract that you were going to get a bonus if your game sold X, Y, and Z. But now because you're owned by Microsoft, your games are all going into Game Pass. That's going to change the incentive structure of your entire bonus, but they're not going to give you an opportunity to be able to change that inside of your contract. So now you're walking away after a release and you don't get your bonus, and based off of the way that games are releasing nowadays, it's going to take 4 to 6 years until your next game comes out, which means it's 4 to 6 years until your next big bonus. And like, I don't know if as a console guy, I can look somebody in the eye and be like, nah, like you shouldn't get your bonus and support your family because of that. But that's the only reason. That's like a personal thing for me. Like that's because I know somebody who's like in it. But
Mhm.
outside of that, like looking at it from consumer, it just makes me feel as if I don't know where the future of this entire thing's going to be. Maybe Microsoft has a handle on this, maybe, but it just doesn't feel like it to me.
K Live.
Woo! I got a lot. First and foremost, I want to say this, right? To everyone out there, do you love video games or do you love the console it's on, right? I think you
Mm.
just love games. I get everybody wants to pick sides and do whatever, okay? But I want to say this from a strictly business standpoint, it makes sense for them to do this. It makes sense. It's impossible for them to lose money. And my thought process is if I could buy two games, right? Let's talk about what we're talking about right now. Let's say uh Gears of War, Xbox, Ratchet and Clank. Now let's imagine Ratchet and Clank is not on PC. Let's just imagine that.
Mhm.
I could buy Gears of War, and let's say I could play it physically, right? Not streaming, like actual natively on my Xbox One, Xbox Series S, Xbox Scorpio. I could play it on my PS5, PS4, my PC, and my cell phone, right? That's 7 places I could play that game. Or I could buy Ratchet and Clank and play it just on my PS5. I'm going to pick the game that has the most accessibility where I can play it in multiple places, multiple different ways on any platform I choose, right? And then secondly, I'm gonna ask Slow Mo this question. I'm gonna because it's all business, so I'm gonna go to an actual true thing.
All right, you might not like my answer, but let's go.
Oh no, trust me. So let's say the consoles are the cure. We're talking about diseases here. We're talking about in the medical field. Consoles are the cure. The games are the medicine, right? Where do you think pharmaceuticals make their most money? Off the cure or off the medicine.
The medicine.
Exactly. Which is why they don't cure bleep anymore. Let's use the S word, but let's keep this PG-13. They don't cure anything. Whatever the heck you get, they want you to find a way to live with it. So that way they get more of your money. So from a Xbox standpoint, do you want the cure only available for 50 million people, or do you want it available for 4 billion people? They're going to make money regardless, right? So a quick search again, the average indie game supposedly makes about 25K. Again, this is just a quick Google search, not hard numbers. I'm looking at one place. They said the average AAA game, which they said only 5% of games hit these numbers, profit about $400 million. The rare ones are the Grand Theft Autos, Call of Duty that do like $1 billion, right? The PlayStation, Xbox, PC are more similar than they've ever been. You're not porting a game from the 360 to the Xbox sale processor that could play 50 DVDs or Blu-rays at once, right? To port a game, I've seen or heard of teams less than 5 people to port a game. So if you could port Gears of War to PlayStation for, let's go high, let's say 200 grand, I guarantee you the profit on that will be 15x. So I think we need to stop looking at things always from, I bought this and I want to defend it. I can't afford to play, I can't afford both. So you're picking sides. Don't pick sides. Play the games where you can, where it makes sense, and have fun. When I
I have a
watch,
question.
yeah, go ahead.
Do you remember the email that came out from Phil Spencer that specifically mentioned brand affinity and how like the AAA companies kind of lost that and how they're struggling to kind of get that brand affinity back? Do you remember that email?
I understand it, but no, I didn't see that email. But I understand it. But go ahead.
Well, I think the main concern is that if Microsoft continues to do this thing that makes them more ubiquitous and kind of less, when people have like what they're trying to do is become like this gigantic publisher
Mhm.
that kind of touches all platforms, and that's fine. That could be something that they're trying to do. But when you become that, you become essentially an EA or an Ubisoft or a Take Two. And we've seen what happens to those companies when you've lost the brand affinity from the consumer. You just become another company to them. And when EA releases the next game, you don't care. You barely even try it. It's not on your radar. And unless it ends up being something truly special, that's the only time that you'll give it an opportunity. Same thing for Ubisoft. Same thing for all these other big companies. And it's not as if their games don't have some level of quality. It's that the affinity towards their brand has completely diminished. I think that is the concern, that when you move away from having a specific identity inside of your ecosystem and try to push it elsewhere to be able to maximize profits, that's totally okay. But you just need to recognize what you're losing by doing that. It's not as if it's a zero sum game.
I understand everything you just said, right? So let me ask you a question. Can you go out right now and go buy and build a PC if you wanted to? Could you do it? So could you do that right now?
Yes.
Microsoft didn't make that email you spoke about for you. They didn't make this announcement video they just made today for you. Here's the really harsh truth. That email and the video made today is for broke people. I'm
That's
serious.
crazy.
No, nope. I mean, let me tell you why. The majority of people who buy, let me ask you a real question. I'm gonna go each person, not well, you're different because you work in the industry. You get stuff for free. How many games do you think you can actually buy a year that you would buy and play, Forte? If you just had a regular job, you had the average median income in America of about 43,000. How many games could you buy a year? Do you think that you would buy? I should say.
Uh that I would want to buy.
43,000?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, I could probably buy one a month if I wanted to, maybe two. But what I would really want to buy, maybe 3 a year that I would actually want to buy.
Exactly. Okay.
yeah, probably
Slow-mo.
3 maximum.
Okay.
At
Slow-mo,
that
what's
price
yours?
point.
You're talking me personally. I could buy whatever I want whenever I want.
No, 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 no. He's
You
talking
guys
about if
have
you
to-
only made 43,000 a year.
Oh, then I'm probably going to do like 2 or 3.
Exactly. The people who this video is for, I'm telling you, they buy 5, 6, 10 games a year. Most gamers, I'm just being transparent here, they don't prioritize a lot of their lives to make sure their relationships are good with their friends, family, let alone an actual personal relationship, right? So they have more expendable time to immerse themselves and also get away from reality that they can't live certain lives. So they live it through the video game, right? They live it through entertainment, right? They're probably buying on average. I just Googled it right now. It says right now the average gamer, the ages went up. They say it's 24, golly, to 52. Okay. Those people are so tribal and protective of their brand that's why Microsoft is say, hey, this is a good thing. Hey, think about you can play your games in more places. We didn't need that message at all. But the people who can only afford an Xbox 1,000,000% do. Because they want to feel like their brand, like he just said a second ago, is not being diluted. This is almost trying to sell them on why it's a good thing. Because they actually care about their Xbox. If you ask me what system I play, what console I play, Xbox. I have not powered my Xbox on in probably 2 years. But I'm an Xbox guy. That's who I am. If I'm on PC, if I'm playing on PlayStation, I'm an Xbox fan. That's what I am. And I don't need to own the console to say that. But people who feel like they need this is because they have no option to go out and build a $600 or $2,000 PC. They don't have the option to go buy a PS5. Right? Something to think about. And I'm rambling, so I'm gonna kick it over to you guys.
Okay, so if someone can only afford to buy one console, they have two options here. It's most people, and I think this. I haven't looked it up, but in a while. But the statistics show that the majority of console owners only own one console. Yeah. I thought last I saw it was like 2/3 of them only own one console. So they choose one each generation. That's the one they stick with for that generation. If we're going into, let's say, it's not even a hypothetical at this point. They got 4 games that are going to Nintendo Switch and PlayStation. Mm-hmm. And we all kind of we can all universally agree that there's going to be more than that. Like it's not going to stay at 4. I mean, and even we don't even have to be a hypothetical. Phil Spencer would not say these are the only ones that are going. So clearly there's going to be more. By the time next generation starts, when it's a PS6 and whatever they're going to call the next Xbox, the gamer has a choice. They have a choice of buying an Xbox with exclusive content on Xbox and third-party games. And they have a choice of a PlayStation 6 that has exclusive content for PlayStation, third-party games, as well as some of those Xbox games.
And exclusive third-party games.
And exclusive third-party games that, because as what's been happening, it's slow and more is that third-party publishers have been skipping the Xbox platform to put their games only on PlayStation because they do not find value in porting a game to Xbox only for it to not sell that great. So why do we waste time doing that? So we're not going to do it. And so when that is the reality of the situation in 2026, 2027, already you got the majority of gamers 3-1 choosing PlayStation. I think it will get worse. Now, Microsoft isn't even really countering that. What they're saying is, frankly, we don't care about the box. We don't market it like that. We barely market our games to keep it a buck with you. But what we care about is Game Pass, and what we care about is the ecosystem of Xbox. We're going to tell you every screen's an Xbox. Your Samsung TV, that's an Xbox. PlayStation's an Xbox. Nintendo Switch is an Xbox. PC is Xbox. Your iPhone, that's an Xbox. As soon as we can get that Game Pass app on it and Apple stops tripping on us. But the reality is that business-wise, you're not making money that way. They're not making money that way. When you put your games on other places, yeah, you're getting that 70%. But in some of the ways they're trying to put their games in places, like there is talk of, say, like some kind of handheld device they may do. Everyone's been all the rumors and everything, and what if like they could get Steam on there, because hey, look, on PC everybody goes to Steam and they don't go to the Microsoft Store, because the Microsoft Store ain't barely got any game. The Microsoft Store gets less games from third parties than Xbox does. So they see it's even in a worse situation. If you have Steam on a Xbox handheld, you're not getting that money. That's going to Valve. Your store is so bad that when it comes to your games, PC gamers will rather buy it full price on Steam, which, hey, they might be like, hey, that's fine, but you're still losing out on 30% of that revenue.
See, but would you rather have 1 million quarters, or would you rather have 100 $5 bills? And to Doom, by the way, apologies, I'm congested, so he got to be about my pronunciations. But what I'm saying,
it's fine.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, though,
Oh, you're my
can't-
brother, so that's understandable.
Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is, you can't. It's not when Xbox. You don't make a console to sell hardware. You make a console to sell games. Like, however you slice it, right? This is a more profitable move for them. Regardless
How?
Listen,
Oh,
Question. No.
we don't know this is more profitable for them at all.
Let me tell.
If you can play Xbox games right now,
Hold on.
if right now you can play Xbox games,
Dude, I'm going to let you. I'm going to let you go. Let me say what I'm about to say. But he said how, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me if they put their AAA games on PS5, right? What is one of the top games that they've sold? Do anybody know a number? Just pick any Xbox exclusive. Do you know a number?
Starfield.
How many is it?
We don't know what it's sold officially.
Initially, just what do you think it is?
I'm thinking of probably about, I think it's somewhere between like 5 or 6 million. And that's based off of how Steam numbers have been.
There's been 13 million people who played it, but we don't know the exact
sales. Say less, because the number is irrelevant. What I'm asking is, so let's just say 5 million. If it went to PS5, how many people do you think would buy it? How much more do you think it would have sold? I would just give me a rough estimate. What do you think?
Let me ask you, because this is.
But do me a favor, Steve. Nope. Don't answer a question with a question.
I don't think. I think
just
people
who hold on. I'm not asking you to think. I'm just asking. Answer the question, right? Answer the question and then explain.
I think there would be less than 500,000 sales.
Question, 500,000 sales, right?
I think less, far less.
Okay, so what do you far less for Starfield?
Yes, because I think if you wanted to play Starfield, you played it. Because
what
the
do you
thing
mean?
Is that Microsoft.
What do you mean? Hold on. No.
Microsoft
We just talked about that most gamers only have one console. If they have one console, how do they play it if they don't have access to it?
Listen.
We all just agreed. No. Don't go off the topic. If you have one console, how are you?
Hey, let's
no, because
one at a time.
No, here's what I'm saying, and I'm
gonna
talk to you, Slow-Mo. If we just all unanimously agreed, most people have one system. So if most gamers, let's just go 6 out of 10, only have one option, how do they play it if they can't afford to buy another system?
I'm going to explain that to you right now. Xbox does not limit their games to just one console. If you can play your Xbox on a Samsung television, if you can play it on
Oh
your
my
PC.
God.
No, listen. This is the world that we live in right now. This is the world that we live in.
What you're
If
saying
you
is about
can-
to make
if you
no
can
sense
play-
whatsoever.
No,
No,
because
look,
It's,
look,
go-
you
it's
got-
going to
you-
make no
it does
sense.
make sense.
If you
K-Live,
can't
you
buy a
got K-Live,
$600
you have to
system,
let him
you want to
finish.
buy a $2,000
K-Live,
TV?
K-Live,
Steve,
let him
Oh,
finish.
K-Live,
Let him
let him
finish.
Go ahead.
If right now you can, if you have your television, you can play that right now on via some sort of app. If you have some sort of stick, you can connect it to an Xbox app, and then boom, you can start connecting it. It's not the it's a little jank, but you can do it. You can also do that on much more expensive televisions. You can do it on any browser, right? So this is not saying that people who already have access to a browser, which is literally everyone, if you wanted to play Starfield, if you for very very cheaply, you could have done that, right? This is not this is not a chance of like people who wanted to play Starfield now have an opportunity to play Starfield. You always had an opportunity to play Starfield because you all have a browser, all of you. There's nothing stopping you from. The question is, does bringing it to another platform get you enough sales in comparison to the brand damage that it does, so that way people aren't coming to your platform anymore? Because Xbox isn't exactly the same as PlayStation, because with PlayStation, if you want those PlayStation games, you have to get a PlayStation or wait a few years until it comes to PC. When it comes to Xbox, it immediately comes to PC the day that it comes on Xbox, and it's also on every browser. And if you want to, you can play all of the games on GeForce Now. You don't have to use xCloud, which xCloud is not as great of a service, but it's included into Game Pass. So it's not as if it's impossible for people to play these games. The question is, are they going to suddenly rush to play these games now that it's on their platform that they have? I just don't think that that's going to be the case, because I feel like gamers, if you really want to play a game, you will find a way. You will do irresponsible things in your life to be able to find a way to be able to play that game.
What you just said is so not logical. And what I mean by that is,
I'm not talking about
the
logic though.
gamer.
We're talking about
I'll let you.
gamers.
I'll let you finish, and I want to apologize for over talking you. What I'm going to say is this, right? If you're a gamer, if you're a true gamer, you're not dare trying to play any type of game on a Fire Stick, Chromecast, or a streaming service. There's a reason GeForce, their streaming service, kind of went away. There's a reason that Stadia,
GeForce.
yeah, whatever it was, their little streaming thing where you the game, it's whatever it was. They called it the grid, whatever it was called, right? They got rid of it. There's a reason Stadia went out of business, because people who spent billions of dollars, who thought just how you're saying right now, so this is a good idea, it didn't work.
Well, that's
But-
not why Stadia didn't work.
So
The Stadia didn't work for the very reason that how I feel about Xbox's decision. Stadia came out with no exclusive games and no compelling content. And all the games they had were games that you could already get on platforms you already owned.
see, but right now you don't know that. That's what you think.
No, I do know that's
Oh,
not what.
that's
No,
what-
that is
that's
exactly what happened.
Finish what I'm saying. So you think that when they made this, they needed to have certain games, whatever the case may be. I don't want to argue the semantics of that. What I'm saying is the whole point of, if you had the best games on it, it was latency, depending on your internet speed, how far you were from the servers. There's a lot of things that play into that. Going from 1080p to 720p, there's a lot of things in between that to pay a service, right? But this is the bare numbers I'm going to go with, right? What started this conversation was, is it profitable to move your games over? We take Starfield, for example. We just said this. He said far less than 500,000, right? Far less is what he's saying. I just put it at 400,000 copies, and Microsoft making $13 per copy. That is $5.2 million. And like I said, to port that game, the hardware is pretty much the same. Let's go worse. Let's say cost $1 million. They make $4 million they would not have made before. And you do that times 2 AAA games a year over 10 years, you start talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. That's why it's profitable. Stop looking at everything microscopically.
I don't think we're arguing profitability. I think we're arguing two different things. You are arguing the profitability of it. Me and Slow-Mo are talking about brand damage. We're talking about future how people
And
perceive your
brand
brand in the
damage
future, and
caused
whether
what? If the
whether
brand is damaged, what does that equate? That hits
that
your
that
bottom
means that
line
people don't
negatively.
come into your ecosystem and spend money, which is what you're really trying to do. You're trying you sending a few games outside of your ecosystem only gets you so much. What is really gets you the money is when people are inside of your ecosystem spending money not just on your first party games, but all the third party games that they buy, all the DLC that they purchase, all the microtransactions. That's where the real money comes in.
And you're
And the
getting
real
30
money happens.
30% of all of
Yeah.
that.
And
You
that
guys are
only
looking
happens
at
when
this.
people are
Yeah.
inside of your ecosystem. But if you're constantly putting your games outside of the ecosystem, that impacts the brand
So
and how people see it. That's what me and Slow Mo are talking about. We're not
so
talking about the pure dollars that you'll make from selling it to PlayStation people. Of course you'll make money. No one is saying that you won't. It's all about how the
so
future viability of your platform.
so the
Also, the cost to
yeah.
port a game is way more than that. If I recall correctly, in that Insomniac leak, they had the cost and the revenue and the return on investment for all of the Insomniac games that had already came out and what they projected for the first few. Now, of course, the ports to PC had the highest return on investment because, of course, the actual like cost to do the port was much cheaper than the full on development. But it wasn't just like a million. It was somewhere in like the 30 to 40 million for Spider-Man remastered. Spider-Man 2018 remastered, the first one that Insomniac did. It was somewhere in that range. I can't remember the exact number, but they did make a lot of money off of it. But it still cost them way more than
Yeah, it was like
just a
30.
couple of million.
It
It
was
was
like
like
30
somewhere like
million,
30.
yeah. It was like
Yeah.
30 million for them to
And
port it.
even if it costs them 30 million, I still think that they even if I concede the point that if they port these games over the PlayStation or over the Switch, that they will make money. That isn't the concern. I don't think anyone is concerned about how much money they'll make. I think the question is the everyone knows that where you make the real money isn't even in first party games. It's where you bring people into your platform and they spend all of their money inside of your platform. When people are buying like all these third party games, when people are buying DLC, when people are buying microtransactions, like when people are playing COD and spending $500 per season on skins and shit, like that's where the
Well,
real money is.
I
And if
think
people aren't on your ecosystem, they aren't doing that.
I also think we're looking at two different it's coming from two different sides of the conversation. Like the question I don't think it's a question maybe in the future, like a far future. Xbox, I don't think it's a situation where Xbox isn't going to still have a console though. Like
Correct.
No, they're
like
going to keep making
if
hardware.
they
It
have
just
a
be more
console,
irrelevant hardware.
what's irrelevant is it's irrelevant maybe for people that buy Xbox games to have it, but it's still going to be third parties that will still put their games on there. It's not
Why
like they're
though?
Are you
Why
sure?
would they?
Yeah, I mean, here's it. Of
good.
course,
With the Wii U, it only sold 13 million units, and
the
third
Wii
parties
U,
did
the
Well,
not
we're
Wii
also
U
show up
talking
for
about
wasn't
that.
for
Nintendo that's
the Wii U,
notoriously
right?
always had low engagement when it comes to third party though.
Sure,
Except
but
for the Switch.
except the Switch,
The
plenty
Switch
of
had it
people.
too until they proved it.
But I mean, again, but that's a good example why the Switch went off road, why PlayStation and Xbox are going, on road on the racetrack. I want to ask you guys a question. I just put it in the chat. Hopefully, you guys didn't see. I just put it in Discord. You talk about major games, right? God of War is a major game, and you say everyone the AAA games. I think God of War is Starfield, right? In my opinion. How many when that game went to Steam, strictly Steam sales? What do you think it sold? I'll just guess.
Which game? Say again.
How
God
about
of
God
War.
of War?
God of War. Quick, give it to me right now before you Google it.
I think it was like 3 million or something like that.
Probably 2 to 3 million
Yeah.
on Steam.
What do you think? And again, this is just numbers that it showed on PlayStation. What do you think it sold on PlayStation?
God of War sold 10 million
10
at
million.
least.
Over 10 million.
Yeah, so it said 10 million plus, right?
Mhm.
That means over 35%. Let's just say it says over 10, 30% additional sales and revenue for just putting it on PC. So
Yes,
that's
but
what I mean. But that's what I mean when you're wrong when you say people who want to play the game are going to play it. Because
But I
again,
think you're
here-
conflating PC
he's-
with console. Sure, there is an interlap between console and PC people, but let's be very clear. There are PC people who will never buy a console, and there are console people who would rather give up everything than buy a PC.
see, but you're
Like,
changing your whole narrative.
I'm not.
No,
I'm
no,
I
he's
just- I
you
just
had
stated
an
said
example.
If you want
And
to
that
play the
example
game,
isn't
you'll
it's
play
not
the
apples
game.
to apples.
It's
That
okay.
example
Yes.
isn't apple to
Slow-mo.
Again,
Exactly. It's not apples to
I'm gonna say
apples
another
because
word. Let me know when you're
PlayStation is
done.
not doing brand damage by because PlayStation is not putting their games on Xbox. At the end of the day, that's what's happening, right? Because if PlayStation was putting God of War on Xbox, you would have a better point, and I would 100% concede it. But that is never going to happen.
Not a kill with old school again. Forte will tell you this. His name is Hustles. He made a comment. He made a
Come on,
comment
man.
10 years ago. We were in the chat. He
Wait a minute,
said,
his name is what?
Hustles.
Hustles?
He said,
No,
yeah,
no, not that hustles. Not that hustles. It's a different hustles.
he said PlayStation will be dead before you see any first party titles on any platform, including PC. People feel that way. The reason they put it on the system is because it's additional revenue, regardless of brand damage, whatever image you want to call it.
Okay, so you're going to
call it.
stand on
Let me-
business right now.
let me
PlayStation games
finish-
are going to come on
let-
Xbox?
Let me finish what I'm saying to you. Let me finish what I'm saying to you, right? There's too many nuances. We'll go back and forth on this topic forever. Let's get something straight right now. Microsoft could buy Sony if they wanted to.
They can't do that.
I
You
mean,
said they-
no.
No,
because
you're not. Wait,
legally
did he say they
won't be able
can't?
to.
Did he say they
No, they
can't?
can't. They cannot do that.
So let me
Legally, they
finish.
cannot.
So let me again. This is what I do, right? This is what I do. This is what I'm going to tell you. Microsoft makes more revenue just in the education and business and IT sector of companies than all of Sony combined in every business.
Yo,
Sony
Kay, I
has-
know that.
Let me finish what I'm saying. Microsoft has guaranteed yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily income. We're not talking about Xbox. Sony has no recurring services other than they have some streaming service on their TVs you can buy, PlayStation Network, and there's some streaming services that they have, and they own partial bits of some streaming services, right? Like Paramount Plus, whatever the case may be. But what I'm saying is the reason all these companies exist is to make money, right? I don't presume to understand what a VP thinks, but I do understand the VP's job is to make the profit sharing and the stockholders money, and they would never do anything that would jeopardize that. So that's away from gaming. This is a gaming podcast, not about money. But what I'm telling you is the initial statement that he made. This is the initial statement. And that's why I said you're changing up what you're saying. Don't get away from it. If you want to play a game, you would have already played it. God of War was out, 3 years before it came to
But
PC?
we already know that those are
It
two
just-
completely different
It doesn't
audiences. They're
stop,
not the
but you
same
can't.
audience.
But now you're tailoring
not.
it. Just hold on. I'm gonna ask
They're
slow mo.
not
I'm
the
gonna,
same
you know
au-
what? Slow
because
mo.
That's
Slow mo.
saying phone audiences are the same as like game console audiences. Those are completely different game
When I
players.
play
Completely
on
different.
PC, what controller do I have to use?
Use any controller you want.
Exactly. And you know what I put in God of War? When I play God of War. If I play with Xbox, you know what buttons show up? Xbox. If I plug in a PS5 controller, you know what buttons show up? PS5. Do you know I was shocked when I hooked up my PS5 controller and the freaking speaker worked on the controller? They didn't just port it; they made sure everything worked.
Sure did. I'll give them credit for that.
So what I'm saying is, but just to, like you said, stand on business, stand on what you say. You said if you want to play the game, it would have been played already. 3.5 million people bought a game that was 3 years old.
Yeah, PC players who never would have gotten a PlayStation. Most of those people did not have a PlayStation. Why? Because they're not console people. Those are very different audiences. No matter how many times you or Phil Spencer try to convince me that they're the same people, they're not. We know that they're not the same people. Like, we get it that some of the Venn diagram touch. I get that. I'm not saying some console people can't also go into PC. Some PC people can't also have a
But
console. That's not what I'm
And
saying.
But I
some PC people double dip. Like I played
Yeah,
God of War at
that's
launch, and then
totally true.
I bought it again on PC. But I think we're kind of going round in circles and rabbit hole. I did want to kind of
And I
address
do
real
want to
quick,
say,
like the
PlayStation
whole.
games, God of War will never be on Xbox.
I
I
I
will
agree with that.
100% stand on that
But
because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about games that are on Xbox, a console platform going to another console platform. That's what we're talking about. I don't want to conflate it with PC because PC is the Wild West. It's its own ecosystem. It's doing its own thing.
uh, the reason why I said you Microsoft couldn't buy Sony is not because of how much money Microsoft has versus how much money Sony has. It's because the regulators wouldn't allow it.
100% correct.
Yeah, they would that would be they would laugh like every regulator in the entire world.
Stress over buying Activision.
Yeah, and pretty much at this point, Microsoft. I think they understand this at this point. They can't buy another major publisher. If they tried, it would get denied.
Everything has to be for the
So, and I'm
streets.
about to blow
Yeah.
everybody's mind, and like you said, I agree with Slomo. We got off topic. Do you know? And I didn't believe this number. I just checked like 8 different websites. How much more money Steam makes off just getting their percents from the game than Sony or Microsoft do? I'm like, I'm not going to tell you the number. It's insane. Which is why they don't got to make games anymore. And it's not
Yes, why? Yeah, they've done making games. They've been done.
like,
Steam is the standard platform for PC, which is they are the monopoly.
Yeah, they don't have
90%
hardware.
of everything.
They don't have hardware that makes it. They don't have that expenses. They don't make games no more, so they don't have that expenses of developing games, except for every now and then, like Half-Life Alyx, stuff like
came
that.
out with the Steam Deck though.
Well, I mean, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, they do have that hardware.
Indie games, but they made that system. They made that hardware to sell more games. If you again look this up, indie titles went through the roof.
To attack Windows. They
But
did
hold
it to attack Windows, and
the game is called Hades. Listen, Hades, right? Facts. It sold more copies once the Steam Deck came out than it sold on Xbox, PC, and PS5 combined. When that game came out, it was one of the top games played on the Steam Deck. When you go to Steam, you can look up like the top games played on Steam Deck. One was that Vampire Survivor game. It's like $5. But what I'm saying is they made that not to make money off the hardware, but to make money off the software. And I jacked this podcast. I want to apologize to everyone on here.
It's an interesting conversation.
And the listeners, because don't confuse.
Oh, it's a good conversation.
Don't confuse my passion with anger. So it's passion, not anger, everybody.
No, I don't think anyone's confused about that. Yeah. Now, what I was going to say about, I think I lost. I forgot what I was going to say.
Hate that. That's why you want to jump in there when you got it fresh, because 5 minutes into the conversation.
No, I had it. I was talking, and both of y'all cut me off, and then I lost it. That's why I lost it. It doesn't matter.
Well,
it'll come back to me eventually.
Let's be for real, Slobo. It may come back at some point.
Yeah, I'm old. It'll be 2 a.m. I'm gonna wake up like that was it. That was it. And then I'll send Forte a text message, and hopefully it wakes him up out of his sleep.
I think something that Microsoft said that was really interesting during the podcast was, hey, when we think about like backwards compatibility and like protecting your library, think of it like Windows 95. Once they said that, I said, phew, because if you're thinking about backwards compatibility in the way that you think about like Windows 95 apps and stuff like that, I feel perfectly fine, because even right now in Windows 11, you can turn on a compatibility mode and make it so that way Windows 95 or Windows 98 applications still function to some degree. And if that's how you're trying to do it, then at least I can be free to know that at least my library as it is will be protected. Whether or not I'll continue to invest inside of the ecosystem, I don't know. But for now, I know that everything's going to be protected because you're looking at it in that fashion. And you've told me that you're looking at it in that fashion.
That's interesting. Go ahead, Soma.
So let's talk about. Okay, so they during their podcast they were discussing ABK and the games that they said that all of their first party games would be in Game Pass day one. So I guess they said that to address a lot of the rumors that were out there that day one games in Game Pass was going away. There were other rumors that Call of Duty would be treated differently, that wouldn't be a day one in Game Pass because it's too big of a game for that, so on and so forth. So are we all in agreement that their statement during the stream that all their first party games will be day one in Game Pass was sufficient enough to kind of quell those rumors?
I think so. I think they were very definitive in that. I think that was a very definitive answer. I do think Call of Duty is still up in the air because that's the one that still hasn't made its way over. Like the fact that they talked about Diablo.
But none of the Call of Duties have yet, or even the old
Call
ones.
of Duties, like Activision is still the question. I don't think anything outside of that. Now, the day and date thing, I think is good to know that, okay, cool, day and date ain't going nowhere because that was a big conversation. But every other game, that never was really a question for. You know, we already knew that Bethesda, ZeniMax games were going day and date. We knew that first party Xbox games under Xbox Studios, those were going day and date. It was always about the Activision games. When are they going to start coming? So we don't know what that future is going to look like. We do know that we are going to be getting Diablo 4 in May, which is cool. I think May 14th is the day they said. So it's cool to see that that's finally coming. But until we actually see a Activision published or Blizzard published game show up in Game Pass day one, it's still a conversation that's still going to be had.
I think there is a bit of a gray area with just this year's Call of Duty because the contract.
By the way, the Diablo, it's not May, it's March 28th.
Oh, March, March.
It's March 28th.
I got my ends mixed up. My birthday's in May, that's why.
So the contract they had with Sony, that was renewed some years back, and it ends this year. So the contract, the year of it ended in 2024, but it had a certain number of games, and when they did that new contract, it wasn't that long ago. It may have been like 3 or 4 years ago. But when they did that new marketing deal, they knew that last year they were going to skip a year. What we got as Modern Warfare 3 was supposed to be DLC.
Mm-hmm.
They changed it to make it a full release, and we don't know the reasoning why definitively. I believe it's because once the acquisition was underway, they was like, hey, look, let's try to get out of this contract as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think they churned what was DLC content into a full release to satisfy the contract. But it's still a bit of a gray area because the contract doesn't end for marketing until the end, like 2024. And with that said, like what parts of this contract, because it was confirmed that the contract forbade the games from being in Game Pass for, I don't know if it was completely for the duration of the contract or maybe a certain period of time or whatever, but what part of that contract was about just time, like the exclusivity of that game? And is it certain games, or was it about the time frame? We don't know, because they kind of upset what would have been a easy understanding of Black Ops that comes out later this year is the last numbered game that Sony paid for in their marketing, and that's what they get, and it's the end of this year. They kind of upset that. That's why I kind of think like some people are on the fence, and I think on the fence specifically with this year's Call of Duty, because I think in 2025, whatever Call of Duty comes out then, there's no contract anymore, period. That's dead. And so it'll go into Game Pass. I just think this one in particular still has people kind of, they don't know. Like, they don't know if Sony even has any kind of marketing still with it. I don't think they would still have like the stuff like extra loadouts. PlayStation guys get extra loadouts, more experience. The betas before everyone else, more time with the game, exclusive content, that kind of stuff. I think all of that's going to be gone. It's just, can they market the game themselves? Can they market it for Xbox? Shoot, would they market it for Xbox is a question I have. And then also, can they put it in Game Pass? I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. Lucius, what do you think about that? What do you think? How do you think that's going to turn out? At least for the Call of Duty of this year.
So
Excuse me.
when they spoke about games going into Game Pass, they said it 3 times. Sarah Bond said it twice. Matt Booty said it once. Matt Booty said it in relation to Xbox Studios, and then Sarah Bond said it once about Xbox Studios, and then another time when she said, Activision Blizzard games are coming to Game Pass, and she also said day one. So I think, at least for future games, I think we can anticipate those coming into the service day one. So I don't think that that's an issue. I do see what you're talking about with the complication of the Call of Duty contract.
Mm-hmm.
And one, I would like to quell any potential fear of, oh, maybe it's not coming because we're not seeing other older Call of Duty games come in. I think Microsoft is very focused on making sure that as it adds games into Game Pass, it's doing it both on the console and PC side of it to be able to fill up that Microsoft Windows Store that we said is abysmal. We've talked about how they have more issues getting games inside of that side of it than they actually do on the Xbox side. So I think that they are very cognizant of that and are trying to do it so that way as they bring these older Call of Duty games into Game Pass, they're doing it on both sides so that way you can maximize that audience. So I think on that end, for the older Call of Duties, I think it's just going to take a little longer because they have to do it on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And for this newest Call of Duty, I think that the lawyers are probably figuring that out right now, right? We gave them Modern Warfare 3. Is that enough to be able to fulfill whatever this contract is? And I think we'll figure all that out probably.
I'm pretty sure Sony's going to fight it, right? Or try to fight it. Try to find a loophole or something that could prevent it from going to Game Pass. I think that's something they would definitely be looking into.
You're probably right. Sony will probably try to fight this, and if they fight it hard enough, then we won't see anything Call of Duty wise during the June showcase. But if the Microsoft lawyers are able to figure it out before then, I expect a huge show out for Call of Duty during the E3 time for Microsoft, because why wouldn't they do that? 100% associated to your brand, even if it's going to PlayStation. The fact that this is going to be the first time that it comes to Game Pass, assuming it does day one and there's no contract issues, this is going to be the biggest test. If there's any time that you want to put as much marketing behind Game Pass and Call of Duty and associating those two together, it's going to be the first year that Call of Duty comes into Game Pass, because you want to try to get as many subscribers as possible, because you're going to lose out on a significant amount of sales, and the bean counters are not going to be happy. You're going to have to figure something out.
K-Live, what do you think?
I mean, again, contracts are in place. If I remember correctly, when they bought Activision, they said that they'll continue to support PlayStation. Correct? Didn't they say that when they first bought it?
Mm-hmm. And they have a contract with them to keep Call of Duty on there for 10 years. But this is more about the marketing contract that Sony made with Activision before the acquisition happened, because that allowed them to get exclusive content, exclusive marketing, and they also added an exclusion of any subscription services, but they really just meant Game Pass in there. And the ending of the date of the contract is somewhere in 2024, but it was also for a specific number of games, and they changed it where the game that was supposed to come out the numbered the actual Call of Duty game was supposed to be this year, but they took what was DLC last year and made it an actual game and called it Modern Warfare 3. So that kind of threw things off. So that's where like the whole quote unquote gray area comes from, because it's what is it? Is it the number of games, or is it the year, the length of the time of the duration of the contract? That's where we kind of like, it's
Right.
that
It really just
first party
depends on-
games are going to all day one, but this one seems to be somewhat of a like everything else is the same, but maybe not this one.
Well, ultimately, and not okay. What you want to say? Oh, excuse me.
No, go ahead. No, you good.
yeah.
Go ahead, bro. You
gonna
listen, man.
say-
Everybody, a lot of
It's
people
like he's
know it's not
arguing with
up to-
himself right now.
Right, exactly. Right. It's a situation to where, as many times as they push back on this acquisition of Activision, period, anything that I think the regulators put in place regarding what they could or could not do with these licenses for these games, right? I think that's not going to change based on what the regulators, put into these agreements, right? It's not even about what Sony had with Activision. Because if you put two lawyers together, you know who the lawyer wins? The lawyer with the biggest bankroll behind them, right? So essentially, I think it's what the regulators put in place while they kept pushing back on this deal is what matters. And you work in the government. Is it way for you to see what those restrictions, requirements were that the regulators had to put in place to approve Activision being purchased by Microsoft? Is there a way to view that?
I don't know about any of that stuff. I'm a network engineer. I don't
It's
know.
almost like
Hey, listen,
I'm
man.
a peon. I
Hey, man.
can't see secret
You
documents.
better work your networking skills and get us. Look, Trump left the office with freaking documents for NATO.
I'm trying to still be here tomorrow, so I'm gonna have to
Hey,
politely decline.
But ultimately, based on what we can, speak to, I think if Microsoft doesn't want it, or if they want it, it's their call completely. In my opinion, if they want it to be on there, it will be. If they don't, it won't be. Any exclusive content, if they want it there, they're going to allow it. If they don't, they don't. I mean, because essentially, it's what if they went
I
to
feel it.
court over this, Microsoft could push this to infinity.
I
And
think if they went to
Sony can
court
do anything.
over it, I feel like they went to court over it. My whole thing was, if Microsoft really wanted this to be not a thing, there's always a way that they can buy themselves out of it. There's some type of termination clause, that probably some ridiculous number that would have to be paid if they did forfeit on that contract, that Microsoft just be like, yo, if it's that important to them, then they would just do it. So there's ways around that. Like I said, no one really knows how that's going to kind of play itself out. But going back to what you had said, Samuel, like around the just the games, like it was supposed to be, like you said, 2024's Call of Duty was supposed to be the last one, but they actually took the game that wasn't supposed to be that game and changed it. Now, is there any type of language out there? Maybe they actually knew what the name of the next Call of Duty was going to be. Did they have exclusive rights to that game when it comes to the marketing and everything, and the overall DLC and all the other stuff that comes out for it? Did they have any of that stuff for that game that was named that? That's another thing that probably is the sticking point. Because they pretty much, everybody knows, like in the know, kind of knows what the name of that game probably was going to be. So if they had it tied to
it's supposed to be a Black Ops. It's supposed to be another Black Ops.
It's supposed to be another Black Ops. So if it's tied to the name of it, then yeah, there's probably an argument
so you mean if the language of the contract was like, we gotta have 2 Modern Warfares, 2 Black Ops, it's got like, it's not just Call of Duty, it's Call of Duty
blank whatever name,
colon whatever
I doubt that they would have that sort of specific language inside of a contract. Like, it's not to say that it's just to say that you wouldn't lock yourself into those names that many years out. Even because if there's even a slight change in the name, then you would have to go back into the contract just to be able to adjust it for a name change. I don't think that that's worth it. I just think if you're Sony, you just care about getting the games. And it wasn't until kind of last minute was there a switch in strategy for Modern Warfare 3. So I think we'll figure all that out in June, because Microsoft is either going to show it or they won't.
Yeah,
And
I
not,
agree.
not a
I
kill. You
agree
got a
with that.
request to look at your phone from someone in the chat. Just FYI.
Look at my phone. Oh Lord. Oh. Okay.
Asking Forte to look at his phone. I mean, I feel like I say this to this
Shout out
guy
to
all the
C.
time.
Woo! Shout out to C. No, listen, shout out to C. Bush, friend. He used to be one of my bosses at the store. He has a brand new setup in his house. He redid his theater room, has like 265 inches on the wall. He has the Xbox dashboard on 165 inch right on the wall next to it. He has DPS in full screen, bro. It looks so
Oh, I
good.
like that. That's
Let's
what's up.
go. Let's go. And C Bush, that's a cool name. And I think that works for more than just
See-
a gamer tag.
Oh
Bush
my!
Run.
Hey!
Oh,
This is a family show. Hey, lad.
Here, I am.
This is a family program.
I'm posting it in the Discord so y'all can see it. But yeah,
Cool.
It's in the fellowship chat.
Are you ready to kind of transition this to the DPS side of things?
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
And FYI, at the end of the podcast today, whoever has the most interactions, I'm gonna let Forte pick. I'm gonna do I call it my ultra realistic role play with you and Slow Mo.
Oh
It's
Lord,
gonna be epic.
this sounds
my
terrible.
God.
This sounds
Oh,
terrible.
it's gonna be awesome.
It sounds awful.
Trust
It
me.
does sound awful.
So that interaction, you guys want to have a good show at the end. It's gonna be about 40 seconds. Get those interactions up
But
in the chat. Let's
why?
go.
But why?
Because it's gonna be amazing.
But why?
They're gonna love it.
So there's still a lot of Xbox stuff to talk about, but we went real long on some of it. So we're going to continue that conversation on the other channel. And then we're also going to talk about some of the PlayStation stuff that came out over the course of the week. So we're going to transition everybody to over there as we do every week. We appreciate everybody. Make sure you hit the like button on the channel, hit the subscribe button. Gonna be a great rest of the show. But while we're doing that,
and to be clear, we are we're going to transition you guys ourselves. So like if you're familiar with Twitch, where you will raid, sometimes a Twitch channel will raid another channel. YouTube does a very similar thing with redirects, and we're going to redirect the audience here to the DPS channel, and it's mostly to drive traffic to the channel so that eventually we can get that channel up to the point where we're doing the entire DPS podcast there, and it's all DPS and all that good stuff. I mean, we do other content there too, so check out that stuff as well. But
absolutely. So
it's all set up so you can do the redirect.
I found you. Yep, I already found it. So all right, go ahead and
drop. Before you do that, let me get
everything in there.
Yeah, let me get the link and put the link in the chat for those who are watching the replay. If you're watching the replay, you can just click this link and then it'll take you to the other side for the rest of the podcast. Thank you for your patience.
You say the other side?
Yeah.
That's scary.
The other side.
I like this. I don't know. It is scary. The other side. See, I like this side. I'm not ready for the other side yet, Slow Mo. Don't force it on us.
Well, change is inevitable, and we all have to just come to terms with it.
All right. We see you guys over there. You'll be transitioned automatically. There's also the link there. You'll be able to hit go. So we will see you all guys over there at the DPS channel.